Hey guys, how we doing? This is Jim with Styrene Monkey. I see there's been some videos going out there about how you got started in the hobby of model building. And I thought about jumping on board and tell you a little bit about myself, about how I got involved into the terrific hobby of model building. It all started back in the mid to late 70s. My father was going to take me to this hobby shop. We lived in Miami at the time. And this hobby shop he used to go to when he was a kid. But prior to that, in the late 40s and 50s, this building was a bowling alley. And then they turned it into an RC slot car place. He used to go there with his brother, my uncle, and they would race the big slot cars. They were like the real big ones. They weren't like the small ones, the FX. These were the big things, and they would take their cars in there, and they had a huge track in there. And then eventually the slot cars kind of faded out, and they turned it into a hobby shop. So I would say I was about 7 or 8 or so, and just up one day, my dad says, "How would you like to go to this hobby shop?" I said, "Sure." So we hopped in the car. It was about a three-mile drive to get to this place, and let's just say it wasn't in the greatest of neighborhoods. I was getting a little concerned where we were going because it was really in a rough neighborhood. And my dad says, "Don't worry, it's not that bad as you think." And but anyway, we got to this hobby shop. You had to go around to the back of the store, and there was this 8-foot wall all around the parking lot. It had a barbed wire fence above the wall. They even had a security guard there in the parking lot watching everybody's cars. And I was still a little concerned about what kind of place this is. And we go into the shop, and he's explaining to me, you could still tell this was a bowling alley back in the day because they still had the bowling alley floors where the pins sat, where you used to step up and had the marking dots on the floor, and you could still see the original bowling alley floor in this place, which was pretty cool. But as you walked in, on either side of the double doors, they had these big 10-foot showcases with boats that people have built, customers and employees, the ones you put the wood ship kits with the planking on it and everything. And over to the right, they had the brass model trains that were very expensive. And but as you went a little bit further in the store, in the center of the store was the RC counter. And back then, RC was really getting popular, and that was where they were making most of their money, was in RC. And as you look to the right of the shop was all the model train stuff, brass trains, N-scale, HO, they had everything in that store. If you couldn't get it, if you wanted it and you wanted to get it, they could get it for you if they didn't have it. Let's just put it that way. They had all kinds of contact. It was nothing. I always go to the store, and I never saw so much stuff in my life for trains. And then as we went to the far left of the store, there was the model kits. There was kits just stacked even on the top shelf, 4 feet high. They had every kind of kit you could imagine there. Well, my dad and we picked out this cool model kit. It was from a TV show that we used to watch, and it was called Moving On. It was about a guy driving a semi-truck, and it was a green, I think it was an International, and it had white striping on it. So we bought this kit, and my dad and me are going to put this thing together. We got home, we got the paint for it and all. We taped it off, did the two-tone paint job. My dad did most of that, and I would put together the chassis. My dad put together the engine. And it was kind of like a group build between me and him, and we put this thing together, and I thought it was the coolest kit in the world. And we put a shelf up in my bedroom, and I used to just stare at that model, but I wish I had that model today. But even if you wanted to buy that kit today, it's over $100, the original kit. But yeah, I was in the hobby, and then once in a while we'd go and I'd pick up another kit or so me and him would work on. Didn't get a whole lot into it. We just plain basic paint and glue. We just put together. None of the stuff like you had today. And then you're in high school, and then you get a job, and you don't think about the hobby much anymore. It's just work and the ladies and such. And then as I graduated high school, I started working for a company that dealt with in aviation. It was a place for people with private aircraft, Learjets, Gulfstreams, and such. And I was working in the hangar at this place. It was called Page Avjet at the time, and it was right on 36th Street where this hobby shop was. But the hobby shop was like 3-4 miles away from the airport. And I was talking to some guys in the hangar about the thing came up about model building, and I said, yeah, I did some kits with my dad years ago, and they said, oh, it's different than, you know, when you and your dad built. There's all this cool stuff. I'm like, what? They go, oh, they got photo etch, there's resin. I'm like, I never heard of any of this stuff. So one day I said, I'm going to go over to the hobby shop. Haven't seen it, been there in quite some many years, and I'm going to check it out. So I went over there and I got introduced to this guy named Pat. Pat has been there for years, and he was a kind of mellow guy with a dry sense of humor. But behind the counter over there at this hobby shop, there was drawers full of stuff that he didn't even know were there. Sometimes as I progressed and started coming in there more often, he'd say, oh, come on around the back and see if you can find it. I'm sure there's something in there. And I'd pull stuff out, and he would go, I didn't even know that was in there. I mean, resin kits, photo etch. Photo etch was just starting to come out a little bit more. And at the end of the aisle there, at the end of where the model kits were, there was these big glass showcases where people had built models, customers, employees, battleships, aircraft carriers, cars, planes, jets. It was just, I could spend hours just standing there at the showcase looking at all these models these people built. And Pat got me interested in going to a model show. And I said, what do you mean a model show? And he goes, oh, it's the International Plastic Modeler Society. They have it once a year. It's in different locations. You really need to go. Check it out. Well, I did go to my first show, and from then on there, I was hooked. I had built models from then on forward, and I still do, as you know, as you can see. And it's just a hobby that I love. Yes, it can be frustrating at times. And but yeah, I also deal with model railroading. I have a model railroad layout in my garage I work on from time to time. But here in the summertime in Florida, it's just too hot to work out in the garage. You can only work maybe half hour to an hour at a time before you start sweating buckets. But model building has always been my passion, and always will be. And that's it. That's the gist of how I got started in the hobby. It was all due to my dad, and I do appreciate him for that. And it helps me get away from the everyday world when I come up here to build. And that's it. I hope you guys are having a good week, and we'll catch you later. Happy modeling. Take care. Bye-bye.